I want to talk to you today about something powerful. I want to talk about the God who opens doors. You may have walked in here facing closed doors, closed opportunities, closed relationships, closed dreams. But I've got good news for you. God is not limited by a closed door. In fact, He's the specialist at opening doors no man can shut. Let me tell you this: when God gets ready to bless you, He doesn't need a key. Yes, the key. There's a door that's about to open in your life, not because of who you know, not because of your resume, not because everything's perfect, but because you serve a God who opens doors no man can shut. Let me encourage you with this today. Just because it looks like the door is closed doesn't mean it's permanent. Some of you have been standing in front of a door for a long time, a door of healing, a door of promotion, a door of restoration, a door of breakthrough, and it feels locked, sealed, and forgotten. But hear this. If God said He's going to open it, then nothing and no one can keep it closed. Not the delay, not the difficulty, not the people who overlooked you, rejected you, or tried to disqualify you. God's word is more powerful than anyone's opinion. God doesn't check with people before He blesses you. He doesn't look at your mistakes and say, well, I was going to open the door, but now I can't. No, God is not like people. He sees beyond where you are and calls you into where you're meant to be. And when God says it's your season, He opens a door and silences every voice that said it couldn't happen. Let me give you an example from everyday life. Think about elevators. You can press the button all you want. But until the system tells that elevator it's your turn, the door stays closed. You might stand there tapping your foot, growing frustrated, watching others go up and down while you're still waiting. But just because the door hasn't opened yet doesn't mean it's not coming. The system already registered your request. It's just working behind the scenes. In the same way, some of you have been waiting on God to move, and you think He didn't hear you. But He did. He heard your cry. He saw your tears. He knows the desire of your heart. He hasn't denied you. He's just preparing the right floor, the right time, the right setup, and when it's ready, the door will open. Not a second too early, not a second too late. Sometimes we think people have the power to lock us out of our destiny. Maybe your manager overlooked you for the promotion. Maybe you applied for 20 jobs and got 20 rejections. Maybe someone told you you'd never amount to anything. But I came to tell you today, people may close a door, but God overrides every rejection. He has a master key. And when He decides to open it, it doesn't matter how many no's you've received, His yes rides them all. In the same way, some of you have been waiting on God to move, and you think He didn't hear you. But He did. He heard your cry. He saw your tears. He knows the desire of your heart. He hasn't denied you. He's just preparing the right floor, the right time, the right setup, and when it's ready, the door will open. Not a second too early, not a second too late. Sometimes we think people have the power to lock us out of our destiny. Maybe your manager overlooked you for the promotion. Maybe you applied for 20 jobs and got 20 rejections. Maybe someone told you you'd never amount to anything. But I came to tell you today, people may close a door, but God overrides every rejection. He has a master key. And when He decides to open it, it doesn't matter how many no's you've received, His yes overrides them all. Here's another daily life example. Sometimes when we walk into a grocery store, there are automatic sliding doors. You don't have to touch them. You don't have to say a word. All you have to do is keep walking toward them, and they open. That's how faith works. You may not see it open yet, but if you'll keep walking, keep believing, keep obeying, the door will slide open at just the right moment. The problem is many of us stop too soon. We let fear convince us that the door will never open. We get discouraged, so we turn around. But what if the door was just about to slide open? What if you're one step away, one day away, or one prayer away from everything shifting? Let me remind you, the God who opens doors doesn't need permission from your past. He's not intimidated by what you've lost, or how long it's been, or how impossible it seems. He created the door. He created the hinges. He holds the handle. He has the final say. So don't let a closed door convince you to quit. Don't let a delay make you doubt. If it's not open yet, it's because God is still preparing something better than what you expected. He's aligning the right people, the right moment, the right breakthrough. God opens doors no man can shut. And when He opens one for you, you won't have to force it. You won't have to beg for it. You won't have to manipulate your way in. It'll open with ease because it's His favor doing the work. So lift your head, straighten your shoulders, start thanking Him in advance, because the door may not be open yet, but it's about to be. And when it does, it's going to blow your mind. Let me tell you something powerful today. God is never late. He is never early. His timing is always perfect. You may not understand it in the moment. You may wonder why it's taking so long. You might even question if God has forgotten you. But when the door finally opens, you'll look back and say, now I see why I had to wait. Now I understand why it didn't happen when I wanted it to. God sees what we can't see. He knows the future from the beginning. While you're focused on what's right in front of you, God is already preparing what's ahead of you. And if he's delaying something, it's because he's protecting you, developing you, and aligning something better for you. You might be praying, God, open this door now. But God may be saying, if I open that door too soon, it could overwhelm you. It could distract you. It might even destroy you. Let me finish the work I'm doing in you so when the door opens, you'll be ready to walk through it and handle what's on the other side. Think about the story of Abraham and Sarah. God promised them a child, but years passed and nothing happened. They were faithful, but still waiting. They were getting older. Sarah even laughed when God told her again that she would have a son. But listen, when God gives you a promise, he also controls the clock. He's not rushed by your age, your deadlines, or the pressure around you. Isaac wasn't born 1 second too early or 1 second too late. He was born right on time, God's time. You see, our frustration often comes because we confuse delay with denial. We think God must have changed his mind, or maybe it's not for me. But the truth is, delay is part of divine design. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Imagine a baker pulling a cake out of the oven halfway through the cooking time. It may look good on the outside, but when you cut it open, it's still gooey, unfinished, not ready. That's how some of us are when we rush God's timing. We want the spotlight before the shaping. We want the blessing before the building. But God loves you too much to let you walk into a door unprepared. You know, sometimes you think you're ready for something, but God sees what's ahead. You say, I'm ready for that promotion. But God sees that the company is about to go through a tough season. You say, I'm ready for that relationship, but God knows that person's not who they appear to be. So in his mercy, he delays what you desire to protect what he's promised. Think of it like a traffic light. You're sitting at a red light, frustrated, watching the seconds tick by. You don't see any cars coming, you think, why can't I go? But what you don't see is that the system is synced with the entire city grid. One change here affects everything elsewhere. And just when it's safe, just when it's clear, the light turns green. You weren't being punished. You were being protected. That's how God works. He sees the whole picture. While we're stuck at the red light, he's orchestrating divine flow, a perfect pattern. You may not like the wait, but you'll love what's waiting at the end of it. One of the greatest lessons we can learn is to trust God's timing, even when we don't understand his silence. It takes faith to keep walking when the door hasn't opened yet. It takes strength to keep smiling when the blessing hasn't come. But if you'll stay faithful, stay grateful, keep showing up, keep believing, keep doing the right thing, even when nothing seems to be changing, God will honor that. There's a time to sow, and there's a time to reap. There's a time to be hidden, and a time to be revealed. You don't want to force the door open in your timing and miss what God had in his. When it's your time, you won't have to force it. Favor will find you. The right door will swing open with no stress, no manipulation, no begging. Let me give you a practical example. You might be waiting on the perfect job and you keep getting upped over. Every rejection feels like a failure. But one day, months down the line, the position you never knew existed opens up, one that uses your gifts, one that blesses your family, one that aligns perfectly with who you are. And you'll realize, had God answered your prayer earlier, you would have settled for less than his best. Maybe you're single and wondering, when is it going to be my turn? You've seen others walk through the door of love and marriage, and you're still waiting? But let me remind you, God's not just preparing the door for you, he's preparing you for the door. The delay is not rejection, it's refinement. So when the right person walks into your life, you'll be whole, healed, and ready. Let's be honest, none of us like it when doors close. It's frustrating, it's painful, and it can leave us confused. You prayed, you believed, you gave it everything you had, the door still closed. The relationship didn't work out. The job opportunity didn't happen. The dream didn't come to life the way you imagined. And if you're not careful, you'll start to believe that a closed door means God failed you or forgot you. But I want to tell you today, closed doors are not always a bad thing. Sometimes they're the greatest blessings in disguise. A closed door doesn't mean God is punishing you. Often it means he's protecting you from something you can't yet see. Just because it looked like a good opportunity doesn't mean it was the right opportunity. Just because it felt right doesn't mean it was part of God's plan. God loves you too much to let you settle. He sees the full picture when we only see a snapshot. What looks like rejection is often divine redirection. Think about it. Haven't there been times in your life where you were upset because something didn't work out, only to thank God later that it didn't? You didn't get the job and you were crushed, but a few months later, the company went under. You thought that person was the one, but years later, you saw how broken they were, how they never healed. And you realized God saved you from a storm you never would have survived. I remember hearing a story of a woman who applied for a dream job at a major company. She made it all the way to the final round, was told she was a top choice, and then just like that, they chose someone else. She was devastated. She thought, why would you bring me this far just to shut the door? She felt embarrassed, disappointed, and even angry at God. But just a few weeks later, she got a call from another company, one she hadn't even applied to. They found her resume online, loved her background, and offered her a position that not only paid more, but aligned better with her passions. That job led her to move to a new city, where she eventually met her husband, started a family, and built a beautiful life. She later said, that closed door didn't make sense at the time, but now I see it was God's setup for something better. You see, when God closes a door, it's not because he's cruel, it's because he knows where that path leads. And sometimes the most loving thing God can do is block the way. It may be painful, but it's purposeful. He's not just ordering your steps, he's also blocking the wrong ones. We often pray, God, open the right doors, but we should also pray, God, close the wrong ones, even if I don't understand why. There's a story in the Bible in Acts 16 where Paul and Silas were trying to go preach in a certain region. They had a plan, they had the passion, they were doing the work of God, but Scripture says the Holy Spirit kept them from entering. That's a closed door. Not because they were wrong, but because God had something better. A few verses later, Paul gets a vision calling him to Macedonia, and that trip sparked a movement that changed the world. Sometimes we think we're being spiritual by pushing through every closed door. But faith isn't just about walking through open doors. It's about trusting God when he closes one. Trusting that his no today is making room for a better yes tomorrow. Let me give you a picture from everyday life. Imagine a parent walking with their toddler near a busy street. The child sees a shiny toy on the road and starts running toward it, but the parent grabs their hand, pulls them back, and says no. The child may scream and cry, not understanding why. But the parent isn't being mean, they're being protective. That no just saved their life. It's the same with God. You're chasing things that look good but lead to danger in God, and his love closes the door. Sometimes we get so caught up in what didn't work out that we miss the miracle and what didn't happen. Thank God for the doors that didn't open. Thank him for the relationships that didn't last. Thank him for the opportunities that passed by. If they were meant for you, they would have stayed. Closed doors are not rejection, they are redirection. So the next time a door shuts in your face, instead of saying, God, why did you do this to me? Say, God, thank you for loving me enough to stop me. Choose to believe that if God closed the door, then there must be something better on the other side of the hallway. Something you haven't seen yet. Something he's still preparing. Your future is not behind the door that closed. Your future is in the hands of the God who opens and closes and always knows what's best. So lift your head. Don't mourn over what didn't happen. Don't live bitter over what didn't work. The door may be closed, but God's not done. He's still writing your story, and the next chapter is going to be better than anything you imagined. There are doors in your life right now that are already assigned to you. Doors of healing, doors of promotion, doors of restoration, doors of divine connections, but they don't open with talent alone. They don't swing wide because of who you know or how hard you try. These doors are spiritually activated. And there is one key that unlocks them: faith. Faith isn't just believing in God. It's believing God will do what he said he would do, even when there's no evidence in sight, even when the door looks bolted shut, even when the hallway is long and dark, even when every natural reason says give up, faith says keep walking. Faith is what turns locked doors into open ones. It's what separates those who walk into destiny from those who stop short of disappointment. You may be thinking, I've prayed, I've waited, I've believed, but nothing's changing. Let me tell you something powerful. Faith is not just about the moment the door opens. It's about your posture while you wait. Anybody can shout when the door opens, But it takes real faith to keep praising while you're still in the hallway. It takes faith to say, God, I trust you, when everything around you is telling you to quit. In the Bible, there's a man named Noah. God told him to build an ark when there wasn't a cloud in the sky. People mocked him. They laughed. Decades went by, still no rain. But Noah had faith that kept building when others were doubting. Faith that didn't need to see results to believe in the promise. Eventually, the rain came. The door of the ark closed, and because of faith, Noah and his family were saved. Now that's what I call faith that unlocks doors. God didn't give Noah a deadline. He didn't explain the whole plan. He simply gave him a word, and Noah believed. That's the kind of faith we're called to walk in. Faith that obeys, even when it doesn't make sense. Faith that works, even when it can't see. Let me give you a real-world example. Picture someone going to the gym. They start working out, and after a week, they don't see any change. No six-pack, no toned arms. It's tempting to say this isn't working. But if they stay consistent, if they keep showing up day after day, something begins to shift. Muscles build, strength increases. Change happens not because of one massive day of effort, but because of daily, steady belief that their work matters. Faith works the same way. You may not see it immediately. But every time you pray when you feel weak, every time you worship when you feel weary, every time you declare instead of promise, instead of giving into fear, you're building spiritual muscle. You're turning the key. You're applying pressure to a door that's about to break open. Now, hear this faith doesn't mean you won't have doubts. It doesn't mean you'll never feel discouraged. Faith means you choose to believe even when the doubt is knocking at your door. You choose to say, God, I don't see it yet, but I know you're faithful. I know you're working. I know you've never failed me, and you won't start now. Think of the woman with the issue of blood. For 12 years, she suffered. She spent all her money. She tried everything. But one day she heard Jesus was passing by. She could have said, it's too late. I've tried before. Nothing's worked. But faith rose up in her spirit. She said, I can just touch the edge of his garment. I'll be healed. And as she pressed through the crowd, tired, desperate, but full of faith, she touched him. And instantly, the door of healing opened. It wasn't a pastor. It wasn't a priest. It wasn't a program. It was faith that unlocked the miracle. Can I tell you something today? You've got that same key in your hand. You've got the power to access doors that others say are impossible. But you've got to use your key. You've got to walk in faith when it's hard. Speak in faith when you're hurting. Give in faith when it seems risky. Serve in faith when it feels thankless. Because God honors faith and he rewards those who walk by it. Let me ask you, are you using your key, or are you standing outside the door waiting for someone else to open it for you? The key is already in your spirit. It's your belief, your hope, your trust in the one who holds all things together. Sometimes we wait for the door to open before we act, but the truth is the door is waiting on your faith. It's waiting on you to move, to believe again, to speak again, to hope again. Faith says, I won't stop just because it's hard. I won't give up just because it's taking longer than I thought. I serve a God who is faithful, and my faith will unlock what he promised. So today, pick up your key again, dust it off, put it back in the door. Don't let what you see in the natural keep you from believing in the supernatural. Because the door is closer than you think, and your faith is the key that's about to turn it open. This is one of the most freeing, powerful truths you can carry in your heart. God doesn't need anyone's permission to bless you. He doesn't have to ask your boss, your family, your background, or your past before he decides to open a door for you. When God is ready to lift you, promote you, restore you, bless you, he will do it with or without human approval. His favor is not determined by public opinion, it's determined by divine intention. Sometimes we get caught up thinking we have to earn people's acceptance before we can move forward. We wait for others to validate us, to recognize our gifts, to cheer us on. And when they don't, we start to shrink back. We think, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I need their blessing before I take the next step. But let me remind you, if God has put it in your heart, if he has called you, chosen you, and equipped you, then you don't need a vote to move forward. You don't need the majority to say yes. All it takes is one yes from heaven to override every no on earth. Look at David. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint the next king of Israel, Jesse didn't even invite David to the party. He brought out all his other sons, tall, strong, impressive looking. But God told Samuel, don't look at their outward appearance. I look at the heart. And when Samuel asked, do you have any more sons? Jesse said, well, there's David. He's out tending the sheep. Almost as if he was saying he's not king material. But guess what? God didn't need Jesse's permission to promote David. He didn't need the approval of David's brothers. God reached into the field, into the forgotten, overlooked places, and anointed a young shepherd to be the next king of Israel. When man said he's not enough, God said he's exactly who I've chosen. Maybe you felt like David. Overlooked, dismissed, passed by. You've got dreams in your heart, but nobody seems to see your potential. Can I tell you something? God sees you. He sees your faithfulness in the field. He sees the times you've served quietly, prayed silently, and stayed humble when you could have promoted yourself. And when the time is right, he'll open a door so big, no one can deny it was him. Let me give you a real life example. I once heard about a woman working in a company where she was constantly overlooked for promotions. She wasn't part of the in crowd, didn't have the connections others had, and often felt invisible. But she showed up every day with excellence. She treated others with kindness, went the extra mile, and kept her heart right. One day, an executive from another division happened to attend the meeting she led. He was so impressed by her leadership and insight that he offered her a role in his department, a role 2 levels higher than her current position. That one encounter changed her life. Why? Because God didn't need anyone's permission to elevate her. He saw her faithfulness and he opened a door that no man could shut. Sometimes the very people who overlooked you will be the ones watching when God blesses you. And you don't have to be bitter. You don't have to prove yourself. Just stay focused. Stay faithful. God knows how to set a table in the presence of your enemies, not to shame them, but to show them that when he opens a door, no one can block it. Maybe you're in a season where someone has tried to hold you back, a supervisor who won't promote you, a leader who doesn't see your worth, a friend who always seems to thwart your dreams. Let me encourage you today, people don't hold your future, God does. And when it's time, he won't ask their opinion. He won't check your resume. He won't consider your past mistakes. He'll open the door simply because he's God and he loves you. So don't live trying to please people who can't promote you. Don't shrink your dream because others can't see it. Don't delay your destiny waiting for applause that may never come. The one who called you is faithful. And when he says bless, it doesn't matter who said unqualified. You may not have the connections, but you have the calling. You may not have the degree, but you have the grace. You may not have the platform, but you have the presence of the living God, and that's more than enough. So lift your head, walk with confidence, not arrogance, but assurance that the God who opens doors will do it his way, in his time, with his power. No one can vote you out of what he's voted you into. No one can cancel what he has called. Because at the end of the day, God doesn't need anyone's permission to bless you, and he's about to show you just how true that is. One of the hardest things in life is to wait, especially when you've prayed, especially when you've believed, when you've been faithful, done the right thing, given your best, and still the door hasn't opened. Still the healing hasn't come. Still the opportunity hasn't arrived. That space between the promise and the breakthrough can feel long, lonely, and confusing. But I want to tell you today, just because it's delayed doesn't mean it's denied. Delay is not denial. God is not ignoring you. He's not punishing you. He's preparing you. He's aligning the right people, the right timing, the right conditions, and most importantly, he's preparing you for what he has already prepared for you. Because sometimes if the door opened too early, we wouldn't be ready to handle what's on the other side. Think about it when you go to a fine restaurant or an order something special. It takes longer than a fast food meal. Why? Because quality takes time. Preparation takes time. Timing matters. God is not a microwave God, he's a master chef. And when he's cooking up something in your life, it might take longer than expected, but when it arrives, it will be worth every second of the wait. Look at Joseph in the Bible. He had a dream as a teenager that he would be a ruler, that people would bow to him, and then what happened? He was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. For 13 years, he lived in delay, but not once was he out of God's plan. Think about it when you go to a fine restaurant or an order something special. It takes longer than a fast food meal. Why? Because quality takes time. Preparation takes time. Timing matters. God is not a microwave God, he's a master chef. And when he's cooking up something in your life, it might take longer than expected, but when it arrives, it will be worth every second of the wait. Look at Joseph in the Bible. He had a dream as a teenager that he would be a ruler, that people would bow to him, and then what happened? He was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. For 13 years, he lived in delay, but not once was he out of God's plan. Every step, even the painful ones, were leading him to the palace. At the appointed time, the door flew open, and Joseph went from the prison to the palace in a single day. Why? Because when it's your time, nothing can stop it. But before it's your time, no amount of striving can force it. So if it feels like you're stuck in a season of waiting, don't be discouraged. God has not forgotten you. In fact, the very delay you're facing could be the stage for his greatest demonstration, because delay stretches your faith. It refines your motives. It deepens your trust. It's easy to have faith when doors are flying open. But what about when everything is still? When the hallway is silent? That's when God does his deepest work in you. I remember hearing the story of a young woman who had dreamed for years of getting into a specific medical school. She had the grades, the recommendations, the experience. Everything seemed perfect, but she didn't get in. She was devastated. Felt like her dream was dead, but she decided to trust God anyway. She waited, worked, and prayed, and applied again the next year. This time, not only was she accepted, but she received a full scholarship and was paired with a mentor who was Panyarsten, medical not for start, a medical nonprofit after graduation. Looking back, she said, if I had gotten in the first time, I would have missed out on everything God had aligned for me in the waiting. You see, the delay was never denial. It was divine preparation. Maybe you're praying for a spouse. You've been waiting, watching others get married, and you're wondering if God has forgotten you. Let me encourage you, he hasn't. He's not withholding, he's aligning. He's shaping your future spouse, preparing your hearts for a love that isn't rushed or shallow, but deep and lasting. Or maybe you're waiting on a promotion, a breakthrough, a new opportunity. You've knocked on door after door, but none have opened. That doesn't mean God said no. Sometimes the door isn't closed, it's just not open yet. And when the time is right, it won't be a struggle. It won't feel forced. God will open the right door at the right time, and it will make sense why every other one stayed shut. It's like a puzzle. You might not see the full picture right now, but every piece has a purpose. And when it all comes together, you'll say, God, you knew exactly what you were doing. So don't give up in the delay. Don't stop praying. Don't stop believing. God is still working, even in the silence. He's building something far bigger than you can see. He's crafting a testimony that will inspire others, a story that can only be explained by his hand. Remember, God's timing is perfect, not early, not late, but right on time. And what he has for you won't go to someone else. The promise still stands. The dream is still alive. The door is still in place. And when it opens, you'll walk through it stronger. Because delay is not denial. It's just God saying, I'm not done writing your miracle. There's a truth that may not feel comforting in the moment, but it becomes clearer with time. When God closes a door, it's not always rejection sometimes. It's protection. We often cry over what didn't work out, what didn't open, what we thought we needed. But we forget that God in his all-knowing, all-loving nature doesn't just open the right doors, he also shuts the wrong ones. And sometimes his no is saving you from what your eyes can't yet see. Think about it. How many times have you prayed for something, begged God to make it happen, and when it didn't, you felt defeated? But fast forward a year or two, and suddenly you're thanking God for the closed door. Because now you see it, that job would have drained you. That relationship would have broken you. That move would derail your destiny. What felt like a setback was really a setup for something better. There's a story in the Bible that illustrates this perfectly. In Acts 16, Paul and his companions were traveling to preach the gospel. They wanted to go into Asia, but the Bible says the Spirit of Jesus would not allow them. God closed the door. Then they tried to go to Bithynia, another door shut. Now think about it. Paul was doing a good thing. Preaching, ministering, sharing Jesus. But even good intentions don't always align with God's perfect plan. Eventually, Paul had a vision of a man from Macedonia calling him there, and that's where revival broke out. That's where doors flung open. Why? Because closed doors led him to the right door. Sometimes when we're focused on what didn't happen, we miss the miracle in the redirection. We see the door that closed, but God sees the storm behind it. We feel the pain of a missed opportunity, but God knows that what looked promising was actually a trap. Closed doors are not God punishing you. They're Him protecting you, shielding you, guiding you toward what will bless you, not break you. Let me share a real-life example. A friend of mine once had her heart set on a particular university. It had everything she wanted: prestige, programs, even a scholarship on the line. But after the interview process, she was denied admission. She was crushed, confused. She felt like God had gone silent. But because of that closed door, she ended up applying to a smaller school she'd never even considered. That school turned out to be the exact environment where she met lifelong mentors, developed her calling, and even met her husband. Looking back, she said, the door I cried over was the door that would have led me away from my destiny. It's the same in relationships. Sometimes God ends a connection not because you did anything wrong, but because He saw where it was going. You saw romance, He saw heartbreak. You saw chemistry, He saw compromise. And in His mercy, He closed the door to preserve your future. It hurts in the moment, but eventually you'll thank Him for the doors He didn't open. Here's what we need to understand. Every no from God is still leading you somewhere good. We serve a God who is intentional, strategic, loving. He doesn't slam doors out of spite. He closes them out of wisdom. He doesn't withhold to punish you. He withholds to position you. Sometimes what feels like rejection is really redirection. And in the redirection is the real blessing. I want you to imagine you're driving a car. You come to a roadblock, a detour. At first you're frustrated. You think, this is slowing me down. I was supposed to go that way. But what you don't see is the sinkhole ahead, the accident, the danger. That detour is inconvenient, yes, but it's saving your life. God is the ultimate navigator. He sees the end from the beginning. And when He reroutes you, you can trust it's for your good. You may not understand the closed door today. You may feel like you're stuck, like your dream is drifting further away. But let me speak this into your spirit. God's delays and detours are never wasted. He's still working, still guiding, still opening better doors, even if right now all you see are walls. The question is, will you trust Him in the hallway? Will you believe that His no is not the end, but a divine redirection towards something more fulfilling, more purposeful, more aligned with your destiny? So if you're standing in front of a closed door today, take heart. You're not being abandoned. You're being protected. What God is preparing behind the scenes is greater than anything you could have forced open in your own strength. Let go of the door that's shut and get ready for the one He's about to open. Because when God closes a door, it's not to limit you, it's to launch you into something far better than you imagined. When God decides to open a door in your life, there is no force on earth, no scheme of the enemy, no human opinion, no limitation, and no circumstance that can close it. When God moves, no opposition can block it. That's why you don't have to strive, beg, or manipulate your way into opportunities. All you have to do is walk in faith, because when God opens a door, it stays open. He is the one who holds the keys. He opens and no one can shut. He shuts and no one can open. It's such a freeing truth because we spend so much of our lives trying to make things happen. We stress about who likes us, who supports us, who's in our corner, and who's against us. But let me remind you today, your destiny isn't in people's hands, it's in God's. Your calling doesn't come from a company, a boss, or a connection. It comes from the Creator of heaven and earth. And when He opens the right door, it won't matter who tried to block it. Think about the story of Daniel. He was thrown into a lion's den because of jealousy. People didn't like his favor, his excellence, or his commitment to God. So they plotted against him. They schemed. They convinced the king to sign a decree that would lead to Daniel's punishment. But what they didn't know was this: you can't shut a door God has opened. Even in a pit surrounded by lions, Daniel was untouchable because the hand of God was on him. And when he came out of that den untouched, those same people who tried to shut his door had to watch him be promoted even higher than before. That's the kind of God we serve. He's not intimidated by threats. He's not limited by injustice. He's not controlled by politics, by policy, or by popularity. If God has called you, nothing and no one can take it away. People may try to discredit you, delay you, or discourage you, but they cannot destroy what God has ordained. I remember a woman who had a dream of opening her own bakery. She had recipes passed down for generations, a heart full of passion, and a dream to bring joy to her community. But everywhere she went, doors kept shutting. Loan applications were denied. Commercial spaces fell through. Partners backed out. It seemed like the world was saying no, but she didn't give up. She kept trusting God, believing that if he gave her the dream, he would make a way. And then out of nowhere, a longtime customer she'd once served in a catering job called her up. This woman had just inherited a building from her father, and she offered it to the baker for almost nothing. No lease, no conditions, just favor. That bakery went on to become a local staple in the community. It's thriving, reaching people and giving back all because God opened a door that no man could shut. You see, what's for you is for you. You don't have to compete for it. You don't have to stress over it. You don't have to worry about who else is ahead. When it's your time and your door is ready, it will open and it will stay open. You don't need to be the most qualified, the most connected, or the most experienced. You just need to be the most obedient. Be the one who keeps trusting, keeps walking, keeps honoring God, even when nothing seems to be moving. And let's talk about timing, because sometimes the door doesn't open right away. That doesn't mean it's shut permanently. It just means God is preparing something bigger than you imagined. He's strengthening your character. He's teaching you to walk by faith and not by sight. And when the door finally swings wide, you'll see why every delay, every disappointment, and every closed door was actually pointing you to this one. So don't worry about who's against you. Don't panic if the world says no. Don't lose sleep over what looks impossible. If God has spoken a yes over your life, nothing can overturn it. His yes is final. His open door is unstoppable. You're not walking into your future by chance, you're walking by divine appointment. God is going before you. He's clearing the path. He's preparing people, places, and provision. And when it's time, it'll happen so quickly, so smoothly, you'll know it wasn't you, it was God all along. Stay in peace, stay in faith, because the same God who opens doors that no man can shut is the same God who's opening doors for you, doors of opportunity, doors of healing, doors of restoration, doors of purpose. And when he opens them, you won't have to force it. You'll simply walk through it with confidence, grace, and gratitude.